Joined now by the writer and former Doctor Who showrunner Stephen Moffat. Stephen, good evening.
Yeah.
Writers have embraced time travel even before Christmas Carol with Dickens, and yet it was such a leap of imagination originally.
Yeah, somehow I think we emotionally accept the idea it's possible. We know it isn't, because scientists very crossly tell us that it isn't, and we should follow the scientists, obviously, because that always works out. But no, emotionally it feels right, doesn't it? I always feel as though the past is still going on, and if I just turned the right corner and stepped through the right door, I could arrive back there.
Absolutely, but does it take a good time travel device like a DeLorean or a TARDIS? There's something about the physicality of something to get you backwards and forwards.
Depends which one. I mean, yeah, there's a TARDIS and there's a DeLorean and there's all that nonsense, but in The Time Traveler's Wife, he just disappears and turns up naked. So there's different ways of doing it. I think the more entertaining ones have a ridiculous thing like a car or a phone box.
But given that scientists tell us it can't happen, given that we know it can't happen, sorry folks, it can't happen.
You heard it here first.
Why is it such an enduring narrative idea?
I think because we sort of believe it can, and our memories sort of work that way. We spend an awful lot of time thinking about the past, and the way our memories are stored, the story of our life isn't even stored in chronological order. It's just a mess.
But you're saying we live quite a lot of time in our memory.
Yeah.
And so therefore what, we're trying to recreate things, or we're trying to bring things back from the distant past?
Well, whenever you talk to someone, that conversation is overlaid with all the previous times you spoke to them, isn't it? I mean, every time, if you go back to a place, you feel haunted by the previous times you were there. And I think that's just a function of memory, but it feels like you could go back.
And is there danger? Because what we're talking there, Stephen Allen was saying, and also, and Dick too, that there's a terrible danger with something like this, with terrible plot holes. I mean, when you've been mapping things out in your head, have you actually come across this idea of, if I do that, this is certainly never going to work?
Look, if you're doing a time travel story, it's made of plot holes. I mean, how often does the Doctor say, "We're too late"? You've got a time machine, dear. Come on. It's always going to be a problem, because time travel is a huge impossibility that you have to accept in the middle of a story.
But time travel just doesn't exist in science fiction. It exists in everything. We look at Outlander, for example.
Or A Christmas Carol, or Goodnight Sweetheart, or The Time Traveler's Wife, or Back to the Future is not primarily science fiction. No, it's Tom's Midnight Garden. The time travel is something we've always accepted as possible, because emotionally we're there for
But is that because we actually believe that sometimes we might be able to get back and meet somebody that's from our past, or actually we might care to meet someone from our past again in our future? There's this idea that there's something magical.
It appeals to us. I couldn't say why, but it appeals to us as an idea in a way that, being Superman, that's strictly for science fiction.
Right.
I love it dearly, but we don't really think we're going to be able to fly and have X-ray vision. That's strictly for a comic book.
But actually, when I think about this now, I just think about this in terms of folk tales, for example, particularly Celtic culture. This idea of second sight, this idea you see your dead self going before you and so forth. That, in a sense, is time travel too.
It very much is, yeah.
So then we come to Stephen Moffat's time travel, and I wonder, are you, this desire to go back, do you think you would go back in some shape or form to Doctor Who?
What, wake up tomorrow in Cardiff and have a production
Well,
meeting?
I'm just asking.
I can't believe I'm being asked that on news now. It's really very recent that I quit Doctor Who. I mean, for me, it feels like absolutely...
Well, it must feel like a long time ago in your time travel years.
Yes, in that sort of way. Yeah, I absolutely adore Doctor Who. I think it's the most wonderful show, but it's in very safe hands.
You're not answering my question. I'm asking in some form.
Am I a politician? Do I have to answer your questions?
Not at all. Not at all. But is it... I mean, do you still feel the pull of Doctor Who?
I always stay in touch with Russell and ask him what he's up to and so on. Of course I do. But, I don't... that doesn't mean I'm dashing off to Cardiff on the train tomorrow. Unless I am.
As a writer, just because we've just had news, of course, that the writer's strike may indeed well be over. I mean, what then will things get back to normal? We've still got other strikes, of course.
We've got other strikes, and that one's not resolved yet. They've still got a membership to vote and so on, and well, you can only hope, because the effects of it would be cataclysmic if it just carries on. I know it probably seems with people watching this thinking that, you know, screenwriters and actors are all massively well-paid people. Do you know, some of the ones you've heard of are, but quite a lot of them are just working people, and all they're asking for, I'm not cracking out the violin here, is a decent pay for their
a decent pay, but also recognition. And do you think, in a sense, this deal may finally put writers where they should be? And I'm not just talking about the big stars now, like Jesse, you know, Armstrong, who of course came from Peeps and everything else. But do you think that this actually might put writers in a much better position in the movie business?
It depends what the deal is. We don't know, do we? We haven't heard. I haven't heard anyway. Maybe you've heard.
I haven't heard yet.
You know, I know. We don't know what it is, and we don't know if the writers are going to vote for it. It just looks hopeful, and there hasn't been a lot of hope around in that school for a while, has there?
Thanks very much indeed, Stephen Moffat. The BFI season Destination Time Travel begins on the 16th of October. Just before